Welcome to our first e-learning science experiment. Now, earlier in the week, I sent you all a record sheet for sink or float, which had different objects on it. Hopefully, you had a chance to already make your predictions. You had to mark in the box whether you thought each object would sink or float. So if you haven't made those predictions yet, please pause this video, make your predictions before you watch any further. If you already have made your predictions, let's get started. Sink or float. So what determines whether an object will sink or float? Whether an object will sink or float is based on an object's density. Density is an object's mass per unit volume. What does that mean? That means that the more solid and heavier an object is, the more compact and solid an object is, the denser it is. Now you're going to say to me, Mrs. Rattel, doesn't that mean that if an object is heavy, it's going to sink? Not necessarily. Think about a cruise ship that's on the ocean. Those are extremely heavy, but they don't sink, do they? They float because there is so much volume of water in the ocean that the ocean's density is greater than the density of that ship. So it just depends on what the object is and how much liquid you're putting it into. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at each one of the objects that were on your record sheet. We're going to try it out. Mr. Rattel was so gracious enough to hold the camera for me, so he's going to come closer and show you what happens when I put that object in the water. And then I want you to record the results on your sheet so that you can see if your prediction was correct or not. It's okay if your prediction wasn't correct. Remember, we talk about in science, prediction is an educated guess. It's what you think is going to happen. Sometimes you'll be right, sometimes you won't, but that happens with all great scientists, so please don't worry if your prediction was not correct. Okay, the first object on our sheet was a marble. Now, Mrs. Rattel had to dig around her house. Grayson had to help me do a scavenger hunt to find all the objects we needed for this experiment. I don't have a completely round marble, but I have a rock that's almost completely round and definitely the same density that a marble would be. So, Mr. Rattel, come on over. I'm going to put this marble into our water, and you probably heard what's happening. You probably heard that the marble sunk to the bottom. Alright? Let's do it again. Did you hear that? It sunk straight to the bottom, which means that the marble has a greater density than the water that I put it into. So please mark your sheet. The result of the marble is that it definitely sinks. Okay? The next object on our sink or float sheet is a block. So Grayson was kind enough to help me find a block to use. This is a wood block, not a plastic one. And of course the results, boys and girls, if you were to do this at home, might vary a little bit, might be a little bit different if you had different materials. Depends on what each object is made of. This one is made of wood, so we'll see if this wood pattern block sinks or floats. Ready? You see that? It is most definitely floating, which means that the water has a greater density than this block. Okay, so the pattern block definitely floats. Okay, make sure you mark that down. The next object was a plastic spoon. We'll put this in the water and see what happens. It definitely floats. Can you see that, guys?
Yeah, okay.
Definitely floats. So please mark your sheet that the spoon has a lesser density than the water, so it floats. Okay, the next object on our record sheet was a rubber band. Is that right? Rubber band. Let's put that in the water. Now my rubber band sunk, but my rubber band also broke, so I had to tie it in a knot. This knot might be causing the rubber band to have a greater density than if it was completely round. I'm not sure. But in my case, the rubber band sinks, which means this rubber band has a greater density than the water I put it into. Come over here, Grace, so the kids can see. The next object on our record sheet was a crayon. What do you think? Sink or float? What do you think, Gray?
Float.
Grayson thinks it's going to float. Do you think he's right? Let's find out. Let's put the crayon in the water. What happened?
Sunk.
It sunk. It sunk. So Grayson's prediction was not correct, and that's okay. He made a good guess. This means that the crayon's density is greater than the water. Very good. Very good, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. The next object on our record sheet was a toothpick. Now, Mrs. Rattel and Grayson looked high and low. Could not find a toothpick. However, I have a replacement. I used the stick from a lollipop. It's approximately the same density as a toothpick would be. So let's see what happens
It's gonna
with
float.
our stick. You think so?
Yeah,
Okay, come over
I'm
here.
right. I'm totally right.
Let's find out. It did float! Nice job, Gray. Good prediction. In this case, this stick floated. If I had used an actual toothpick, I am assuming that it probably would have floated too because they're about the same density. So, in this case, the stick had a lesser density than the water and it floated. Okay, next thing on our list, a penny. Now, how many of you have ever put a penny into a fountain to make a wish?
Sink.
Did you ever put a penny in a fountain to make a wish?
Yeah.
And what happened?
It sunk.
And it sunk. Okay, well, let's see if this penny will sink in our water.
Yeah.
What's your prediction, Grayson? Sink or float?
Sink.
Sink. All right, let's check it out. Ready?
Yeah.
Let's put our penny in the water and... Whoa! Did you hear that? Should we do it again?
Yeah.
Ready? Whoa, it sank right to the bottom, guys. You see that? Which means that the penny has a greater density than the water, right?
I'll grab it for you.
So the penny definitely sinks.
Yeah.
Okay, the next object on our list was a paperclip. Now I don't have a very large one, but I don't think that matters. Remember we talked about size doesn't always matter. Let's see, paperclip, sink or float, Grayson?
Sink.
All right, Gray thinks it's gonna sink. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Let's check it out. It did, the paperclip sunk. You see that?
Yeah, I won.
That means that the paperclip has a greater density than
The water.
Very good. Okay. Next thing on our list was tin foil. What does your mommy use tin foil for?
The cookie.
For cooking, that's right. We can use tin foil for lots of things, but we mostly use it in the kitchen when we're cooking.
Yeah.
So tin foil is very light. It's very light. It's made of aluminum. Let's put this into the water and see what happens. Great. Come over here so the kids can see.
It floats.
Oh, let's see. It does float. Very good, Grayson. I'm sure you guys got that right too. The tin foil floats, which means the tin foil has a lesser density than the water. Very good job. Okay, the last object on our list was dice.
It's gonna sink.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm right. I'm so right.
You're so right. Let's find out. Come over here so the kids can see. I'm going to take my dice and put it in here. Whoa! It sank right to the bottom.
I'm so right.
You were so right. Your prediction was accurate, Grayson. Good job. The dice have a greater density than the water, so the dice sink. Okay. There's a bonus question at the bottom of the record sheet, and it says, do you think you can make any of these objects do both? Sink or float? That's a good question, right? What would you have to do to these objects to make them do the opposite is to change their density, right? So I was thinking about this, and I thought maybe we could change the density of the tin foil by changing its shape. Because right now, it's flat, right? It's not very dense, but if I take it and crumble it up into a ball, I'm changing its density, right?
Yeah, it sinks.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm right.
Well, let's find out. I've changed the tin foil's
No.
I've changed the tin foil's density. Let's see what happens. Come on over.
It floats.
Grayson, let's see. It does float. So I changed its density, but not enough to make it sink. Then I had another idea. I didn't say we couldn't combine objects to make them do both. So what if, Grayson, listen. So what if I took the marble and wrapped it in the tin foil? Then I'm changing its weight and its density. Now let's see what happens.
Sink.
It does sink. So now I've changed its mass and its density, and most definitely, it sank.
So
I look forward to hearing from any of you if you have any other ideas of how we could change these objects in any way to make them do the opposite of what they did. Please have Mom or Dad send me a remind message if you can think of another way to change the density of any of these objects. I'm so looking forward to hearing from you. I hope you've liked our first e-learning science experiment, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.